Say when.
Yep, hold on.
Gotta mute my phone.
And we are live, Senator.
Okay. Welcome. I'm Senator Kevin Avard from District 12, Senate District 12, and today we'll be holding a meeting of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. Before we get started, I'll read through the checklist to ensure that this meeting will be in compliance with the right to know law. And as chair of Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, I find due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and in accordance with the governor's emergency orders number 12 pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency orders. In accordance with the emergency orders, I am confirming that we're providing public access to the meeting by telephone, with additional access possible by video and other electronic means. We're utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform, and public has access contemporaneously to watch and listen to the meeting on Zoom or YouTube and via telephone by following the directions and the links provided on the General Court website. We have also provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We're providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there's any problems with access. And if anyone has a problem, please email remote@ledge.state.nh.us or call 603-271-6931. In the event that the public is unable to access the meeting, it will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, let's get started with the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where they are and if there's anybody in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I will start the roll call with Senator Gray.
I am James Gray. I'm in my home in Rochester in District 6, and I'm alone in this room.
Senator Waters.
Senator Waters, at home in Dover, alone in this room.
Senator Perkins Coca.
Senator Perkins Coca. I'm at my office in downtown Portsmouth, and I'm alone in this room.
And I'm Senator Kevin Avard in my office in Nashua, District 12, and I'm in this room with a little puppy, and there are a couple of people in the building, not in the building, but in the house, but not in the room. And so with that, we'll get started. And our first bill that we're going to be hearing is House Bill 309. But before we do that, Senator Waters, do you have a conflict?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be filing on this because I do receive rec payments. I do not believe this bill would affect me or anyone else, or me any differently than anyone else, but I wanted to declare that, and I will participate.
Perfect. Good. And thank you for that. And so we'll hear from the prime sponsor on HB 309.
So, Senator, the prime sponsor is Representative Harrington, who does not appear to be here, but Representative Vos did raise his hand when we opened the hearing. So I'm wondering if he is meaning to introduce it on behalf of Representative Harrington.
You have the floor if that's what you want to do, Representative Vos.
Yes, that is exactly what I would like to do. Good afternoon, everybody. For the record, I'm Representative Michael Vos. I represent District 9 in Rockingham County, the town of Epping, and I'm chair of the Science, Technology, and Energy Committee. And I'm here on behalf of Representative Harrington to introduce HB 309. This is a bill that was requested by the Office of Strategic Initiatives, and it's a pretty simple bill, what we call a housekeeping bill. It changes the definition in statute of the capacity factor of solar facilities to make it more accurate, make it more in line with that defined by ISO New England. Currently in statute, it's defined at about 20%, which is an estimate. The PUC actually uses 14%, as a capacity factor for solar facilities. And ISO New England actually has a standard that they use for defining capacity factor for solar facilities. It actually comes out right now to around 13.5%. And the way we wrote this, or the way this bill was written, it coincides with the ISO New England definition of solar capacity factor. This bill was passed by the Science, Technology, and Energy Committee unanimously, 21-0, was placed on the consent calendar and passed the House on the consent calendar last Wednesday, I believe it was. So it's a simple bill. That's it. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions from the committee? Senator Waters.
Welcome, Representative Vos, and I know we'll all be seeing you over in ST&E soon. So the key here is that on Class 2, it's bringing us into conformity with what ISO New England is doing. Is that the gist of it?
That is the gist of it. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Representative Vos. Let's see, anybody, who else?
We do have one person signed up to speak, Madeline Minot.
Madeline, you have the floor.
Thank you, Senator, and it's nice to see you all again. Thank you for hearing Clean Energy New Hampshire's testimony on this bill. We are very supportive of House Bill 309. As Representative Vos explained, this is sort of just a housekeeping bill. There was a recommendation done by the PUC during their last review of the Renewable Portfolio Standard that this is a correction that should be made. When a bill to completely eliminate the REC sweeping credit was vetoed by the governor a couple years ago, he said, I don't support eliminating the credit entirely, but we should fix the calculation that is used to calculate the credit, which is referring to this capacity factor. So having this 20% capacity factor when almost all of the RECs that make up this credit are from solar installations artificially inflates the credit and is giving away RECs that don't, that actually are not being generated. So it's important to make this correction and use an appropriate capacity factor that's realistic. And this will also reduce the total amount of the credit, which will increase demand for RECs, which will help support renewable energy development in the state. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Madeline.
Thank you.
So Senator, that's all that we have signed up. So if there's anyone else that would like to speak on the bill, if you could please raise your hand, or if you're calling in by phone, press *9. And I'm not seeing anyone, Senator.
Well, that was easy. Okay. So we'll close the hearing.
Go into executive session.
On this one?
I think you've got 12 more minutes before your next hearing.
I was going to hold off a little bit on that. If we could.
We can, but
yeah,
we can also do, what is it, 99?
99? Yeah, okay. So is there a second to go into?
Second.
Okay, is there a third? I'm kidding you. Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Waters,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
and Senator Averard, yes. Okay. So we'll take up 99, but that's the only one I want to do for right now. If that's the wish. All right.
Senator Gray and Senator Waters, would you guys like me to put up your amendment to House Bill 99 on the screen?
That would be nice. Thank you.
1 second.
All right.
The amendment, pretty much the basic parts of it is that it makes sure that the state agencies and environmental groups and other people are also subject to the minimum requirements, which can be specified in rules. It was agreed to both by the author and the department. It makes sure that the fines, that if someone, the way the bill was written before, if a device was found floating somewhere and they did find out who it was, that the person could avoid the fine by just saying, I don't want to come get it. This makes it clear that if we identify the owner of it, that owner is identified for any costs associated with it, including storage, or if they don't come and get it, disposal of it. Again, it just tightens the bill up a little bit. And both the department and the author agreed with it, and Senator Waters agreed with it. I'll shut up now and let Senator Waters talk.
Thanks for doing this, Senator.
So I move ought to pass, and then ought to pass is amended when you get ready for it
Okay,
with the amendment.
all right. Is there a second on that?
Second.
All right, Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Waters,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
Senator Avard, yes. Okay, is there a motion on the total bill? Or,
Yep. Ought to pass.
Senate, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Waters,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
and Senator Avard, yes. And I don't know if we should put it on consent, only
Yeah.
being four of us, yeah. So would you like to take this out, Senator Gray?
That'd be fine.
Okay.
Can I
So,
ask a question, Mr. Chairman? If it doesn't have a fiscal note, we can put it on consent, can't we? Or just would you rather not?
You don't have the 5 members. You've only got 4 members present.
Okay, I didn't know that was the rule if it wasn't an FN, but yeah, I mean, I fine.
Yeah.
However we do it, it doesn't make a difference. I just was curious.
yeah, so it passed 4-0, and Senator Gray, you'll take it out. And is there a motion to move out of exec?
Sure. I'll move to come out of exec.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Waters,
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coca,
Yes.
Senator Kevin Avard, yes. Okay. Are we ready for the next bill?
Yeah, you've got 7 minutes to go.
7 minutes to go. All right. So
So Senator, I don't know if you want to put the committee into recess until 1:20 then?
let's do that. Yes. So moved. All right. And I got to take you outside in case you have a little accident here. Come on. Come here.
Senator, I have 120.
How did I mute myself? Are we there? Can you
We're
hear me?
ready to go if you are, Senator.
Oh, okay. Let's hear from the prime sponsor of 289. I don't know how I muted myself.
So I believe again it was Representative Harrington, but Representative Vos appears as though he will be introducing the bill.
Okay, Representative Vos, welcome to the committee again.
Thank you again, and hello, colleagues. For the record, Representative Michael Vos of Epping, representing Rockingham District 9, Chair of the ST&E. I'm here to introduce HB 289 on behalf of Representative Harrington. Once again, this is what we would consider to be mostly a housekeeping bill. It adds the definition of energy storage facilities to the Site Evaluation Committee's jurisdictional statute. What it basically means is that it would give the Site Evaluation Committee prime jurisdiction over the siting of energy storage facilities with a peak storage capacity of 30 megawatt hours or greater. It would also allow municipalities to petition the Site Evaluation Committee to take jurisdiction of smaller facilities, battery storage facilities, that is. Some towns just don't have the wherewithal to make reasonable decisions about the storage, the siting of a storage facility in their town, and they would like the Site Evaluation Committee to take that on. And this legislation will allow that to happen. So it's a pretty simple bill. Once again, it was supported unanimously, 21-0, by the ST&E committee and was placed on the consent calendar where it passed last Wednesday out of the House. Not much else to say about the bill, but I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Are there any questions from the committee? Senator Waters.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Chairman Vos. Please send my thanks to Representative Harrington for doing this important bill. And I mean, I think we really have to do this, but is it your sense that this will really help right now for Eversource or for other providers who want to do resiliency projects using energy storage, but that this has become a really, really important issue when we get very large scale energy storage potentially with offshore wind. So does that mean this is really especially timely to get this done?
Yes, Senator, thanks for the question. I agree with you that it is timely to get this done. Basically, this bill just puts these facilities under the jurisdiction of the Site Evaluation Committee. It's not enabling legislation in the sense that it enables these facilities to be built. It's just that it assigns the Site Evaluation Committee to the task of siting those facilities and providing a certificate of operation for those facilities.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any further questions? All right, seeing none. Thank you, Representative. Appreciate your testimony. Next, who do we have to speak on this?
Next up, we have Jim Monahan.
Hi, Jim.
Good afternoon, Senator Avard and members of the committee. My name is Jim Monahan. I'm with the DuPont Group, and I'm appearing today on behalf of Revision Energy and the New England Power Generators Association. I don't have much to add to what Representative Vos addressed. As in some measure, this is a housekeeping measure. When the Site Evaluation Committee statute was written years ago and even updated just a few years ago, the concept of large-scale battery storage really was not something that was a part of the industry, but it is now an emerging part of the industry, and I think belongs under the SEC for large facilities. I also think that I agree with Senator Waters with regard to the timeliness of this. Developers are in the process now of deciding where they'll be investing capital dollars for energy storage. And the site evaluation committee offers a level of predictability when it comes to what state you're going to go to. And so having this in place for sizable facilities really is helpful from attracting developers and capital into New Hampshire. So with that, I'm also happy to answer any questions, but I'll leave it at that for now.
Thank you. Questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much for your testimony, Jim. Appreciate it.
Okay.
And
That's the last person that I have signed up, Senator. So if anybody else is interested in speaking on the bill, if you could please raise your hand, or if you're calling in by phone, press *9. And I'm not seeing anyone, Senator.
seeing nope, nothing else. Okay, then we will close the hearing on this. And not ready to go into exec again at this point, but is there, we have time on our hands, don't we?
We have a couple of minutes, Senator, if you want to go on into recess until 1:30.
Let's do that.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Where's the puppy? Huh? Where's the puppy? Got my big puppy here. You. So we'll come out of recess and we'll listen to the prime sponsor of HB 184.
So that is Representative Murray.
Welcome, Representative. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Can you see me or just hear me?
It all depends.
Okay.
We can
No,
only hear you, Representative.
We could just hear you. That's fine.
Okay, either way is fine. It's just I sort of would like to know. For the record, I'm Kate Murray representing Rye and Newcastle, Rockingham District 24. And before I really begin, we have intensive turkey activity going on outside, and my dog finds it near impossible to refrain from commenting on such activity. So I have him on the leash under my desk in the hopes that that will discourage him from participating in the conversation. But I may occasionally have to reach down and ask him to settle himself.
Duly noted.
So thank you so much. So in your packets pertaining to HB 184, you have reports which describe the damage done by personal watercraft in environmentally sensitive areas. A number of these reports are from PWC companies who promote responsible usage. They all support showing respect for environmentally sensitive areas. The best way to support responsible usage is to clearly mark areas where PWCs are not appropriate. I want to highlight a few comments from some of these reports. From Thrillcraft, there is a report on the environmental consequences of motorized recreation. They highlight that wake waves from PWC can create serious shoreline erosion, creating turbidity and sedimentation problems in shallow productive waters. In addition, PWC have more serious negative impacts on birds, including interruption of normal feeding activity and repeated displacement from nesting areas than conventional motorboats, cars, all-terrain vehicles, and pedestrians. From an environmental guide on watercraft operators put out by the Personal Watercraft Industry Association, in shallow waters, boats may stir up the bottom and suspend sediments, which limit light penetration and deplete oxygen. This can affect fish and bird feeding. Vegetation such as sea grasses are delicate nursery grounds where many of the fish in our waters originate. When possible, operate a fair distance from the shoreline because wildlife tends to inhabit the vegetation along the edge of the shore. The best way to avoid disturbing the local ecosystem is to stay in the marked channels and the deeper areas of a lake or river when possible. Many migratory birds are easily stressed and especially vulnerable during these migration periods. Birds will typically fly away from disturbing noises, and any unnecessary expenditure of energy can harm a feeding or resting bird. Excessive boat wakes may contribute to shoreline erosion, and especially in narrow streams and inlets, which are very common in Rye. This organization, recognizing the damage that can be done, cautions WPC users to avoid such areas. It can be very difficult to know which areas are sensitive and which are not. To have clear signage about areas of particular sensitivity can help direct PWC users away from these areas. From the University of Vermont, a study concludes that when the unburned fuel is released into the water, tiny organisms absorb the chemicals and become extremely sensitive to light, an occurrence called phototoxicity. The daylight sun then kills the organism, which causes a collapse of the food chain as food sources slowly become eliminated. And finally, from an environmental guide for watercraft operators, there is a list of all the various types of damage, including turbidity, vegetation, noise, erosion, and depletion of sea grasses. Again, the guide recommends staying away from such areas. Clearly demarcating these areas provides guidance to PWC users who typically do not want to damage the environment. There was a concern raised in this past session in the House that such a restriction would adversely affect particular businesses, that being jet ski, people who sell jet skis. I frankly think it's somewhat absurd to think that someone is going to be deterred from purchasing a jet ski because it cannot use it in a few hundred square yards of wetland out of miles and miles of navigable waterways. I also want to mention that this is a constituent-driven bill requested by the residents who live in Rye and Newcastle, the people who are directly affected by the impact of jet skis. Operators are not always aware of their surroundings, and having these sensitive areas clearly marked is to everyone's benefit. The residents of Rye and Newcastle, the wildlife that lives and breeds in these shallow waters, and the PWC users who are generally respectful and glad to know which areas should be avoided. This bill passed unanimously last session and was derailed due to COVID, was passed again this session unanimously, and the constituents of Rye and Newcastle very much want to see this bill pass the Senate. I would like to add that just this weekend, a breeding pair of mergansers was seen in the back channel. In the almost 30 years that I've been here, I'm unaware that this has happened before. Also, marsh elder, an endangered species, is being reintroduced into the area. Residents in Rye and Newcastle who are doing landscaping work or rejuvenating their plantings are working with conservation committees to painstakingly remove invasive species and plant native plants. All this speaks to the commitment that residents of Newcastle and Rye have towards stewarding the land and waterways. I believe such efforts should be encouraged, and I sincerely ask that you pass this bill, which will go a long way towards supporting and encouraging the residents in this work and protect these fragile waterways. I want to just briefly thank Captain Dunleavy, who I think is here, and also Lieutenant McLean, if she is here, for their work and support. They were very helpful to me in teaching me about some of this and in helping me understand some of these issues. So I just want to publicly give them a thank, because they were very helpful. I'm happy to take questions. I will answer them as best I can. I don't know if there are others who are signed up to speak. They may be better prepared to answer some of these questions than I am.
Thank you for your testimony. Is there questions from the committee? Senator Waters.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Representative. I mean, we obviously worked on this previously, and so my questions are that it really is quite clear that, I mean, these are great, these watercraft are great fun, you know, it's a great recreation, and that this will really not prevent anybody from fully enjoying that. It's just a matter of some very limited areas that are sensitive. Is that the case?
Yes, thank you for the question. I guess a couple of things in particular. You can still circumnavigate Newcastle Island. This does not prevent you from going all the way around the island, and it does not prevent you from going up to BG's boathouse for fried clams or fried scallops. You can access, you know, that is not cut off, as you can maybe see if you're looking at the maps, that is not cut off, and you can go all the way up the Sagamore Creek as far as you can go anyway. So it's only a very small area. The other thing is that you can't always tell how shallow areas are, and it varies quite a bit here. So there's also the risk of the jet skis getting stuck in the mud. That's probably one of the more frequent emergency services that we have to perform here, is to pull people out of the mud. And in their wake, they leave rather large ruts in the bed of the waterway, which do not go away with the tide. They're there, I've seen it demonstrated, they're there actually they can be there for some years. I was really quite surprised. So we want to protect the bed. We want people to not have to get stuck here. And we don't want to limit their ability to enjoy. And I don't think getting stuck in the mud is a whole lot of fun. But I want to just iterate that they can circumnavigate Newcastle Island if they wish to. They can go to BG's for fried clams.
If I may follow up, Mr. Chair.
Oh, yes.
So just another matter here is that, you know, we have our Coastal Natural Resources and Marine Environment Commission, and then of late, all the activity around MS4 and water turbidity issues. And that, so, you know, this may seem like a very limited issue, but if we are losing ground on one aspect of not increasing sedimentation and turbidity, that it can have consequences for how we get hammered with regulations from EPA and others. Isn't that the case?
Yes, Senator, thank you again. That's a very important point to make. I appreciate you bringing that up.
Thank you.
Any further questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much, Representative. Jen?
So, Senator, the two people that we have signed up still to speak are Captain Dunleavy and Eric Power. I don't see either of them on the list at this point. If you guys are calling in or by under a different name, if you could please raise your hand, or if you're calling in by phone, press *9. And if anybody else is interested on testifying on HB 184, now would be the time to raise your hand as well. And I'm not seeing anyone, Senator. Oh, Representative Smith just raised her hand.
Representative?
Good afternoon, Chairman and members of the committee. For the record, I'm Suzanne Smith. I serve on the Resources Committee and I represent the towns of Plymouth, Hebron, and Holderness in Grafton County. And I wanted to just give a more personal view of the land area that is covered, or the wetlands that are covered by this bill. When Resources, right before the shutdown happened, the Resources Committee took a field trip out into this area to thoroughly view it. And before we did that, many of the members were kind of ambivalent about the bill because they just didn't understand just how the tides vary and how shallow the water can be. But after going out and taking a trip with Marine Patrol through that area, we were able to better refine the area that would be included in the bill, which you have before you, and how it was not blocking off access to go around Newcastle Island. And that's how we ended up with a unanimous vote. So I would agree with the prime sponsor and ask you to please pass it. And thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you, Representative. We appreciate it. Okay.
Oh, sorry, we do have another hand that's gone up. It's the person's labeled as Renzula, so I'm not sure who it is.
Welcome. Is it Representative Renzullo? Oh, that would be Renzullo. Welcome, welcome. Are you there?
You
Thank
should.
you.
Oh, there we
Okay,
go.
am I unmuted?
Yeah.
Yes, it's Andy Renzullo. I'm the chair of Resource, Recreation, and Development. And what Representative Smith said is absolutely true. I was probably the most concerned about this bill, and that I was one of the doubters. And I went out on the trip to look at the area, and now I'm its biggest supporter. So it is, as said, that this is important, and just to know that and to verify that it was a 100% approved by the committee twice. Thank you.
Okay. Well, good. Questions from the committee? Seeing that, thank you, Representative. We really appreciate your service and your testimony.
Thank you.
All righty.
All right, Senator, I think that is everyone for the bill.
All right. So I guess we'll close the hearing on HB 184. And are we ready to do HB 397, or do we have time?
We have less than a minute, so very close this time.
All right. So we'll wait. We're doing just a bang up job today, as normal. So that one was okay. Let us know when it's time. We have 1 minute.
Okay, Senator, I have 145.
Okay, let's hear from the prime sponsor on HB 397.
Okay, so that's Representative Howard Pearl.
Representative, welcome.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon. For the record, my name is Representative Howard Pearl. I am the prime sponsor on House Bill 397, and I serve the towns of Loudon, Canterbury, Boscawen, Northfield, and Ward 3 of Franklin. So I thank you today. Again, first off, I will give you guys huge accolades for staying on time. You've done great. Very impressive.
That's the Senate for you.
Yeah, that's it. All right. So House Bill 397 is an act that's relative to permitting fees under the Shoreline Protection Act. This bill reinstates a fee exemption that was in place until about 2 years ago when it was allowed to sunset. It's a very simple one-line bill under the Shoreland Protection Act. And it basically states that application for projects solely funded by municipal, county, state, or federal shall incur a permitting fee, permitting fee no greater than $3,750. So I was approached by some folks from several municipalities who've been struggling with this fee since it was allowed to sunset 2 years ago. And of course, these permitting fees, they reach into the tens of thousands of dollars at times, and it couldn't come at a worse time for municipalities that are dealing with a budget crunch from the pandemic. So there was a bill in the Senate last year that attempted to reinstate the exemption, Senate Bill 491. That bill was passed out of committee unanimously with no concerns from anyone regarding the exemption. However, the bill got hung up on the floor, as many did, and it was tabled and not dealt with due to the pandemic. Additionally, right now, local taxpayers will benefit from this exemption at a time when they need it the most. I guess finally, and most importantly, you should know that during the hearing in the House, I worked with the committee and with Chairman Renzullo and with Rainey Pelletier from the Department of Environmental Services on an amendment which led to this current version of the bill. The bill caps the permit fee at $3,750, as I said. It is my belief that all the stakeholders now favor this legislation, including the Municipal Association and DES. I'm not sure if either of them are testifying today, but it's my understanding that they are now in support. So that pretty much wraps up my testimony. I'll do my part keeping you on time for the next hearing because I got to be around for a couple more of them too. So it's in my best interest to keep you on time, but I'll certainly take any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Representative. Are there questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Representative.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
So next up, we have Darlene Forst.
Darlene, welcome. Hello, Darlene.
Sorry, helps if I lower my own mic. Sorry about that. Thank you for allowing me to testify today, gentlemen and ladies. My name is Darlene Forst. I'm currently the Shoreland Section Supervisor at the Shoreland Program for the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services. I would like to point out that we have submitted written testimony stating that we are in support of this bill as amended. And beyond that, I have nothing to add and I'm only here to answer whatever questions you may have of us.
Okay, I'm going to stall. Any questions? We're just running so efficiently today, so nobody wants to ask any questions. Darlene, thank you very much for stepping up. We appreciate you. Anybody else wish to testify on this bill?
So the last person I have signed up, Senator, is Mario Leclerc, but I'm not seeing him on the list. So Mr. Leclerc, if you're calling in by phone, you can press *9 to raise your hand, or if you could raise your hand virtually. And phone number it is. Mr. Leclerc, you should be able to unmute.
Are you there? Mr. Leclerc? Okay, is there a connection problem or?
Just appears he hasn't unmuted, but Senator Everett, if you'd like, I do have his email here from the sign-in sheet. I can email him and ask if he'd like to send along any written comments.
And Mr. Leclerc, you should be able to unmute yourself by pressing *9, same as you did to raise your hand. Still nothing.
*9. All right. Let's maybe you could submit the written testimony through the email. I think that's probably the best move, unless you hit *9. All right, we're giving you 3 chances.
Oh, sorry. We'll give them one more chance. *6 may work as well, depending on the.
*6 works too. All right.
There we go. Got him.
Hello.
We are.
Can you hear me now?
We hear you, Houston, we copy.
I apologize for that slight delay.
No problem. We have all the time in the world here.
I want to keep you on track. For the record, my name is Mario Leclerc, and I'm here on behalf of the New Hampshire Water Pollution Control Association and our 300 members who represent all of the wastewater treatment plants throughout the state. Based on our careful reading of this bill, we are in support of HB 397. The bill would cap permitting fees associated with Shoreland Protection Act for municipal, county, state, and federal projects at $3,750. These projects exempt from these fees until 2018, when the provision was not renewed in a previous session. New Hampshire municipalities, public water and wastewater utilities, and ratepayers, and ultimately all taxpayers, will benefit from this bill. The wastewater treatment plants, the water treatment plants, and portions of their collection and distribution systems are located within the protection zone that is regulated under the Shoreland Protection Act. The government entities must comply with and obtain permits under the Shoreland Protection Act when they try to make improvements. This bill does not ease any permit requirements. It just limits the permit fees, which have run into tens of thousands of dollars. All stakeholders are in favor of this legislation, and it's my understanding that New Hampshire Municipal Association and DES. The New Hampshire Water Pollution Control Association and its members are committed stewards of the environment. We will continue to comply with the permit requirements as outlined in the permit. We respectfully request that all this bill be passed to ease the financial burden that the permit fees can impose on these governmental entities. Thank you for allowing me to speak at this bill hearing.
Well, thank you for stepping up to the plate and testifying and being patient with us.
Thank you for being patient with me.
Well, that's our job.
Thank you very much.
Are there any questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you again.
Thank you.
All righty. Anybody else want to speak?
Anybody else wants to speak on the bill? If you could raise your hand. And last call for HB 397. I'm not seeing anyone, Senator.
All right, let's close the hearing on that. How are we doing on time?
I think 7 minutes, right, Griffin?
Oh. All right.
I really didn't think, I thought 15 minutes for each bill was appropriate. I wasn't expecting to blow through each one in 5 minutes.
Well, do we have time to do exec two bills? Say 180.
Move to go into exec.
Is there a second?
Second,
All right, Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Waters,
yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
Senator Avard, yes. Let's take up 184 relative to the watercraft. Any thoughts?
I'll move on to pass.
Second.
Discussion?
I'd just like to thank the sponsor for bringing this forward.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Waters,
Yes,
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
Senator Avard, yes. Senator Perkins Quokka, would you like to take this one out?
Yeah, sure.
All right, wonderful. HB,
Move consent.
can we? I
Oh,
thought
that's right. I thought
we can't do consent. because it's short.
we don't
That's
have
all right.
Senator Gaia.
That's all right. How about the HB 397 relative to the permitted fees that we just heard? Is there a motion on it?
move on to pass.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there discussion?
Yeah, I'm glad we're getting this done. I mean, we went around this last time and found and had a good proposal to deal with it, and it got hung up because of COVID. So, you
Okay.
know, yeah.
All right. So Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Waters,
Yes,
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
Senator Avard. Yes. Now we did make, that was a motion not to pass, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And seeing how we passed it, Senator Waters, would you like to take this one out?
I'd be happy to unless Senator Gray wants to, either
Oh,
way.
Senator Gray, I'm sorry. Yeah, either way.
Makes no difference.
Heads or tails?
Senator Waters. There you go.
Okay. I've been volunteered. I know that's a heavy burden, but I'll do it.
All right, wonderful. Let's see. So is there a motion to move out of exec?
So moved.
Second,
Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Waters,
yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka,
Yes.
Senator Everard, yes. Okay, did we kill 7 minutes?
We killed 2. Now, we killed 3. We have 4 minutes left.
Well, we should have learned conversation and we should
Wonderful.
pretend to debate the bill.
Yeah, let's see. We haven't heard 413 yet, right?
Okay.
All right, so is it raining anywhere? We need some rain.
Oh, it's just deathly dry over here in Stratford County. It's the farmers, it's so bad.
It's terrible. I wonder if it's because of all those trees burning out west. I wonder if that has an impact.
I don't know. And they're getting rain like crazy in other parts of the country, but it's just not getting up here.
We need a straw, big long straw.
Well, it'll change. It'll, things will shift. We'll get it again, but.
And my daughter's in Tennessee, and they got some pretty active weather there not too long ago. Just thankful that nothing happened to them. But
where she live, Kevin?
Clarksville, like the song.
Pardon?
Clarksville, Tennessee.
Where's that near?
Nashville. It's just
I've
south.
been through Clarksville. Yeah. That's beautiful country out there. Oh my gosh. I drove all through Tennessee a couple of summers ago, and oh my goodness, it's beautiful.
I'd like to take my guitar to Nashville one day, but then I would probably be ashamed because they have real musicians in Nashville.
There's a lot of good music. I went, I spent a couple of evenings listening to music, and it's quite a scene too. Let me tell you, I went to the Ryman Auditorium. That was cool.
I haven't been there yet,
Yeah.
but I have an excuse to get down there now. So
Yeah.
they moved from Fort Campbell to Clarksville, which is
Well, you're gonna have to work on your accent and get some new clothes to fit in, but you'll be good.
I can sing country. I can do it all day long.
You get that. You got to replace the New Hampshire drawl with a Nashville drawl. You can work on it.
It's funny. When I was a kid, we moved to Florida just for about 6 months. And that's as much as we could take. And people asked, "Where are you from?" And I said, "Well, I'm from Nashville, New Hampshire." "You're from Nashville?" "No," I said, "Nashville, New Hampshire." It sounded like I was coming from Nashville. But... So, how are we doing on time now? Really? 2 minutes.
I got 158.
Okay. So the testimony is getting all nice and warmed up and getting ready, and people are making sure they got all their facts ready, and this is going to be a wonderful next one.
Well, I probably should, this bill probably should have been scheduled first. I think there were 7 people signed up to speak on this bill, so probably kick back everything else a little bit.
All right, I got 1 minute to take a phone call, so I'll be right back. Hello. I'm really well. All right, I'll try to be there. Okay, yeah, bye-bye. All right. Many things going on. What do you want, huh? What do you want? Come here.
All right, Senator, I got 2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay, let's begin. HB 413. Are we ready?
Okay, Senator, the prime sponsor is Representative Abel.
Representative, welcome to the committee.
Thank you very much. And here I am on 2 o'clock to help you with your schedule. So for the record, my name is Representative Karen Ebel, and I'm representing Merrimack District 5, and I'm here in support and to introduce HB 413. I'm the prime sponsor of 413, and it would create a solid waste working group to be convened by DES in support of its solid waste planning efforts. HB 413 would also put a deadline on the updating and promulgation of the state's composting regulations, which are long overdue. The bill is a combination of 2 virtually identical bills that were recommended unanimously for passage by this committee and passed out of the House as well. That it was smooth sailing through the whole process, but it got rolled into an omnibus last year, which was ultimately vetoed by the governor. And it was HB 1234, which had about 40 different bills included in it. The delay in passage is unfortunate because both these bills dealt with issues of great importance to our state, to our municipalities, businesses, and citizens. And if you review the co-sponsor list, you'll see that it's a strongly supported bipartisan bill. The bill passed out of the House Environmental and Agriculture Committee with a unanimous ought to pass recommendation. And on April 7th, it passed the House on the consent calendar. As you heard when we were discussing Senator Waters' bill regarding the solid waste reduction disposal goals, this state is basically facing an evolving solid waste emergency as we try to deal with everything that's being generated. The decision by China to stop taking solid waste from the US back in mid-2019 really put a lot of strain on our municipalities and our businesses and on their pocketbooks. And that was why I originally introduced House Bill 617 that formed the Recycling Study Committee that you're also familiar with. As you've heard, the committee's goal was to hear from as many stakeholder groups as possible, public and private. And what followed was an extraordinarily active 8-week study with 14 hearings and over 50 stakeholders participating. Senator Waters was served on that committee with me, and I chaired it. Previously, and again in my testimony, I've supplied to you a link to the study committee report. And if you haven't had a chance to look it over at some time, I hope you will, because it identifies many critical issues for our state and its solid waste challenges. One of the most strongly held or felt recommendations by the committee was that we create a solid waste task force to help DES work with stakeholders to develop innovative solutions to our many challenges. This bill would create the task force. It includes representatives of many stakeholders, including a member of the Waste Management Council, landfill, and MRF operators, the Northeast Resource Recovery Association, and many others. I just want to note here that the Waste Management Council chair has submitted a letter to you in support of this bill, which you should have received separately. With the long-term solid waste plan in the offing, which we've discussed before, and it's coming right around the bend after a long wait. The last one we had was 2003. DES needs assistance with input and problem solving. I'll be plain here. DES's Solid Waste Bureau is general funded. It used to have a planning division, but because of consistent budget cuts, now it does not. We haven't had a long-range solid waste plan, which was supposed to be produced every 6 years since 2003, and we need one. Other states are working very hard on this issue, and in some cases, they're instituting solid waste bans. and many other creative, innovative solutions. This is really important to note because while other states are working very hard to figure out ways to limit what they're landfilling and et cetera, we are basically stuck and we need to move ahead. This is an issue that affects everyone and every entity in our state, and this task force is needed to help DES achieve the goals that it has to achieve. With regard to our solid waste capacity, one important solution is to decrease the amount of trash being landfilled. One obvious example is food waste. It alone contributes up to 20% of the solid waste in weight and that's landfilled and should be composted to the extent possible. The study committee focused on composting, especially the desire to pursue commercial endeavors, and complaints about our current regulatory structure was one of the best attended hearings we had. DES has struggled to get revised composting regulations done due to staffing challenges. The task has been pending since 2015, when the legislature required the DES to adopt rules relative to requirements and best practices for facilities that compost organics, including vegetable matter, meat byproducts, dairy products, or dairy product derivatives. We really need the new regulations, and this bill, by putting a deadline of September 13th for their promulgation, will ensure that finally they get done. Streamlining the process will help new businesses to develop, help maintain our landfill capacity, save municipalities money, and reduce the methane in the atmosphere that is given off by rotting food waste. In summary, DES has done a wonderful job given the ever-dwindling resources it has had. This working group is one way of supporting the agency in its work, ultimately helping our state, cities, and towns. Prioritizing the long-awaited composting regulations will trigger more business and cost savings. And I urge passage of this important bill. I just want to add one other note that Mark Morgan, who testified before the committee before on solid waste, he's the solid waste manager for the Lebanon Solid Waste District, also is in support of this bill, but he wasn't able to attend today. And lastly, if you look at the deadlines for the solid waste task force to do its work, if this bill passes, its first meeting would be November 2021, and that puts it in a really great position to be working very closely with DES in its solid waste plan, the long range plan, which we hope will be produced in the next couple of years. So thank you very much, and I'd be happy to take your questions.
Thank you for your testimony. I do have one, but I'll wait for the committee. Are there questions from the committee? Senator Waters.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you, Representative, for all your work over many years on this. And just, would it be fair to say that we really have worked closely with the waste management industry on both this and on the planning bill, so that because there's really a shared sense we have to do something about this?
Absolutely, Senator. I think if there was anything that pleased me and other members of the committee in going through the study committee process, because we had so many stakeholders involved, we really worked hard in our recommendations to build consensus, not just on the committee, but with the stakeholders who were present. And I believe that the recommendations, including this one, the solid waste for the task force, the composting regs, and the solid waste disposal goal bill that you introduced, they're all things that represent the interests of the state as a whole.
If I may follow up, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
I mean, you noted the bipartisan support for this and for the DES planning. And that's why they made it into the omnibus, because both bodies last year felt they should be in there. And of course, that bill got vetoed for other reasons. But that said, isn't the plan always been that this is a really a twofer here, that this bill is needed to provide the work that will then feed into the creation of that plan? That's what's essential here about these two moving forward.
Yes, they're very closely connected. DES will be working to produce a long-range waste plan, but it's vital that we have stakeholder input and engagement in the development of that plan. And this task force is just a really key piece to get that kicked off in a good way. And perhaps as important, it represents the consensus view of the study committee and all the input that it got over the weeks of testimony it received from all those stakeholders that I mentioned before.
I want to ask, Mr. Chairman, on the composting, it'd be fair to say, wouldn't it, that there's some businesses that are looking to get into this, and that we could see some good business development and jobs coming out of this, the composting?
Absolutely, and that was another thing that I'm just really pleased to share with the committee. When the Recycling Study Committee did its work, we could see that there were many business opportunities that could come out of a lot of the more innovative concepts that are being discussed with respect to our waste. And composting, as I mentioned before, was something that really brought many, many people out, including, I mean, again, there were so many things to be excited about in the hearings, but it brought out our agricultural community, because there are many farmers who would like to do composting on a more commercial basis, and they were just really struggling trying to get that going because of the status of our compost regulations. So I think this is a win-win.
And as I recall too, this might help our local school districts in their budgets, because they could reduce their waste costs by having compost, a commercial compost person come in and get it, and it doesn't, then they don't have to pay for it going to.
Yep, and we also had a school district come in and talk about its efforts. And the fact of the matter is, I'm not sure who's here to testify, but there are commercial businesses that come in, pick up compost in our state and take it elsewhere because of the situation with our composting regs. So we really need to get them up to speed.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Mine was piggyback it basically on the composting. How much goes into the landfill? You said there was a percentage that goes into the landfill, or?
Well, there are other people here with more expertise than I have, but my recollection and what we had in the study committee is that it was at least 20% in weight that goes into our landfills. And when you think about the dwindling landfill capacity that we have here and how you could actually be creating soil, et cetera, with the compost, it's just something that can help us across the board.
Sounds good. Okay, well, thank you very much for your testimony. Unless there's questions from the committee. Anybody else? None. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so next up we have Representative Bixby.
Representative, welcome.
Hi. For the record, Representative Peter Bixby from Dover, Stratford District 17, and ranking member of the House Environment and Agriculture Committee. And I think that Representative Ebel did an excellent job covering the breadth of this. I just want to underscore a little bit about the composting, since that was a bill that I was involved in developing back in 2015. And one of the things that was striking at that point was that there was no technical problem with doing the composting. The technical capacity was there. The only thing in the way was the regulations. And I was really shocked when the results of the 617 study committee came out to learn that those regulations just had been stalled for 4 years. And there's really, that really, I feel that that's a really high priority to get those regulations in place so that our state can take advantage of the business opportunities as well as the capacity to reduce that huge amount of organic going into the landfill. So that's all I have, and I'd be happy to take questions, but there might be people who know more than I do on the larger scope of things.
Okay, thank you very much. Our questions from the committee. Seeing none. Thank you very much, Representative.
Next up, we have Cordell Johnston.
Welcome, Cordell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Cordell Johnston representing the New Hampshire Municipal Association. I don't have a whole lot to add to what Representative Ebel said, but the Municipal Association strongly supports House Bill 413. I guess, and I am by no means an expert on solid waste issues, but I do know a couple of things. One is that we have limited landfill capacity in New Hampshire, and that is going to become an issue in the not too distant future. And the second is that every time I go to my town's transfer station, there is one more thing that they're no longer accepting for recycling. And that is by no means to blame the town. It is that because of the recycling market, it's rapidly becoming not feasible and not economically viable. So those are some major issues that municipalities need to deal with. And they really, 234 municipalities are not able to solve those problems on their own and can really use help working with the state, working with DES. And that's why we support this bill, because it brings all the interested parties together to try to find ways to address those problems. And as I say, I'm not an expert on the issue, but I know that these are serious problems, and so we very much support the bill. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you, Cordell. Any questions from the committee? Seeing none.
Okay, next up, we have Samuel Nicolai.
Samuel, welcome.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much for taking a testimony. My name is Sam Nicolai. I'm Vice President of Engineering and Compliance for Casella Waste. Casella is a major contributor to managing solid waste for New Hampshire. We manage waste services for more than 12,000 businesses and households and more than 150 communities. I'm here to speak in support of this bill. In my role as head of engineering for Casella, I frequently present to students, to members of the public, at community events, and I'm always struck by how little people understand about their waste management and recycling services. They really don't have a feel for the kinds of facilities and programs and infrastructure that's necessary to provide the services for not only homeowners, but industries and businesses. And given that lack of understanding, they certainly don't understand that things constantly change. As I look back, even in the last few years, we've seen enormous changes to recycling markets, not only from the changes from China, but as well as domestic markets. We've seen changes in our understanding of how to control and regulate emissions. We've seen new packaging and new product types that have to be managed correctly. We've seen the industry move from methane to energy to renewable natural gas. These are just a small number of examples of major changes in the waste management industry over the last 5 years. We really see this solid waste working group as a critical component to keeping the state abreast of the needs and the changes that are occurring. It's a chance for representatives of recycling, waste, and sustainability to share their expertise with regulatory and legislative stakeholders. And we see that the boots on the ground perspective is critically important so that the appropriate regulations can be crafted and the appropriate opportunities can be created for New Hampshire businesses to manage this waste correctly. Over the last year during the pandemic, waste management is included among the essential services. But going forward, I think we all recognize that managing our waste correctly will continue to be essential regardless of the presence of the pandemic. We expect that today's challenges, including ensuring adequate capacity for recycling, organics, and disposal, managing and developing renewable energy, using waste as a resource, and ensuring that businesses and homeowners have the proper infrastructure to manage their waste and recycling each and every day is critically important to continue. And again, we see this solid waste working group as a critical component to moving that forward. We thank you for the opportunity to testify and happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you very much. Questions from the committee? All right, seeing none.
Okay, next up we have Stephen Povey.
Welcome, Stephen.
Welcome. Good afternoon. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, well, good afternoon, committee. My name's Steve Poggi. I'm the area Director of Disposal Operations for Waste Management in New England and upstate New York. I'm a registered professional engineer in the state of New Hampshire and have over 30 years of experience in the solid waste management field. In my role, I'm responsible for permitting, compliance, construction, and operations of our transfer and disposal network in New Hampshire and the rest of New England. Waste Management New Hampshire has operations in Londonderry, New Hampton, Keene, Auburn, Laconia, and Rochester. Our Rochester operation includes a turnkey recycling environmental enterprise facility, which services approximately 40% of the solid waste needs of the state and provides about 80% of the energy needs of the UNH Durham campus through the Ecoline gas pipeline project. We are in support of HB 413. It's currently written and believe that it'll help the challenges faced with the state in recycling and disposal. We participated throughout the year-long effort of the previous study committee on solid waste formed in 2019 and assisted with tours to the turnkey facility in Rochester and our regional recycling plant in Billerica. We're willing to participate on the solid waste working group proposed in the bill and work with other stakeholders on the long-term planning for solid waste management in the state. We believe the effort will identify opportunities to improve the management of solid waste in New Hampshire. That's all I have for testimony today, and I'd be happy to answer any questions the committee may have.
Thank you, Stephen. Questions from the committee? Wow, we're working really efficient today, aren't we? Unreal. Either that or the testimony is just amazing. All right. With that, thank you very much, Stephen. Next.
We have the Honorable John O'Connor.
Welcome, Honorable John O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the Senate Committee. Again, my name is John O'Connor, and I just wanted to chime in. Representative Abel had done a wonderful job in making the presentation. I do want to say that HB 617 that established the committee that developed this 413 was one that I actually sat on with Senator Waters, Karen Ebel, and Meg Murray. And for the 10 years that I served as a state rep, that had to be one of the most comprehensive study committees that we have ever been, I've been involved with. So I do implore you to look into the documents that she sent because there's a wealth of information. A couple more things I do want to mention. What is the alternative if we don't develop this committee and work on for the future? Because there's a limited amount of space still remaining. And I have experience with other towns in the state of Massachusetts that have to ship all of their waste to Ohio at an unbelievable cost. And that's what we're all looking at for the future if we don't do anything, which ties in waste to energy. I know everybody's going to get an uproar on that, but Japan, 98% of all their waste is converted to energy. So with all the new technology and absorbing dioxins and so forth, the Baltic states are already there. The Netherlands is on board with it, then following through the rest of Europe. The other one thing I want to say is I'm supporting Representative Bixby on the composting. We got involved with that since 2015 and found out that the DES didn't have the resources to be able to promulgate the administrative rules. We found that hard to believe, and hopefully we can, with this bill here, we can move forward with it. But just to let you know, for many years, the state of Maine has established the oldest composting school. People from all around the country go to this school for the knowledge and technology and certification. And many of them come across the state lines, pick up some of our waste and bring it back and compost them. But it is an opportunity for a lot of our agricultural locations to get involved with too. So with that, I would hope that you move forward and go immediately to exec and put it on the agenda. And I thank you for allowing me to speak.
So thank you for your testimony. So they were turning some of this waste compost into energy, huh?
Yes, definitely, because you have a place up there now. So that if, based on one another bill that you have coming forward, where it talks about the goals and goal reduction, it talks about goals and a reduction of waste to both incinerators and in landfills. So if you reduce, say, 25% of the waste going to the incinerator, where are you going to get the energy to replace what that was generating? Hopefully, you're not going to start up that coal place down the street.
No, maybe we can call them a bio plant, you know, if we develop something like that.
5 of our biomass plants just got bought out by Maine.
I'm actually just being very facetious. It seemed like a good idea years ago to take some of our waste products from the woods and turn that into energy, so that we could have some nice clean forests instead of filling the landfills and create a timber tax. However, that doesn't seem to be a good idea these days. However, that's a totally different issue, and we really appreciate your testimony. Are there questions from the committee?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
Good to see you, John.
Okay, next up is Reagan Bissonette.
Good afternoon. Thank you. My name is Reagan Bissonette. I'm the Executive Director of the Northeast Resource Recovery Association. And the Northeast Resource Recovery Association is a recycling nonprofit. And we're one of only a handful of nonprofits in the country that helps municipalities sell their recyclables to companies that wish to acquire them. We have over 80% of the municipalities in New Hampshire are members of ours. And we were also closely involved with the HB 617 Recycling and Solid Waste Study Committee. So the Northeast Resource Recovery Association does not take a position on legislation, including HB 413. But I will note that as written, the bill would include one representative from our organization on the solid waste working group if it was passed, and we would welcome the opportunity to be included. I wanted to make 2 key points with respect to the proposed bill. The first is that improving our solid waste planning in New Hampshire, especially for recycling and composting, could really help save municipalities a considerable amount of money, as well as conserve environmental resources. And a big part of this is because the Northeast has the highest cost of disposal of solid waste compared to the entire rest of the country. And that is in part because we have the least of available space for new and expanded landfills. And so we do expect that the cost of disposal of trash is going to just grow over time, which means that to any extent that we can help communities reduce their waste or divert their waste in other ways can help our municipalities save money and taxpayer dollars. The other point I'd like to make is with respect to food scrap composting in particular, updating our regulations to allow for composting meat and dairy for municipalities that have certain permits that don't require as much of an extensive permit process would also help municipalities save money and resources. So, and to answer a question that was asked earlier, according to estimates by the Environmental Protection Agency, as of 2018, which is the most recent number date these numbers were available, for the entire country, food scraps were the largest single component of landfilled waste by weight at 24%. So we estimate that as a country, we are nearly a quarter of everything that we're disposing from municipal waste is food scraps. So there's a tremendous opportunity to be composting that material because food scraps are quite heavy. That means that they're expensive to throw away because we do dispose of material by weight. And I would like to add that many of our municipal members in New Hampshire have expressed a great deal of interest in food scrap composting. And yet relatively few have done so to date. And this is in part because asking residents to take the additional step of separating out meat and dairy from their food scraps is cumbersome. And so this delay in modernizing our composting regulations to bring them in line with our neighboring states is really providing a delay, a hindrance in our municipalities being able to compost more food scraps. And I do believe there'd also be, more business opportunities if we had updated our regulations to make them more favorable and more in line with our neighboring states. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Questions from the committee? All right, seeing none. Thank you very much.
So the last person I have signed up to speak, Senator, is Mike Nork.
Welcome, Mike.
Good afternoon. Thanks for the opportunity to testify on HB 413, which DES supports. For the record, I am Mike Nork. I'm in the Solid Waste Management Bureau at DES. And I'm also a graduate of the Maine Composting School, which former Representative O'Connor had given a shout out to. So as I noted, DES does support this bill. Other testifiers have built a case that I don't need to reiterate, that there is a need for more proactive long-range planning in the state for solid waste management. And regrettably, the department has had very limited resources to engage in that sort of work and planning and technical assistance and outreach, and also updating our composting rules. So these are issues that are of importance. They are by no means not priorities for the department. It's just that we have been challenged to tackle all of these various obligations. And while HB 413 will not resolve the resource issues that we face, it will definitely be an important step in making progress going forwards and developing policies and goals. And we believe that the working group proposed by this bill would definitely play a valuable role in aiding and advising the department in developing a solid waste management plan, which is, as Representative Ebel had noted, about 18 years overdue. Just quickly, with regard to the composting rules, this bill would set a deadline by September 30th for the department to adopt revised composting rules. And, although this is an issue that we have not been able to robustly tackle in recent years, it's been something that we've been working on for about 5 years, off and on. We had stakeholder work group meetings back in 2017 and 2018 to help us figure out how we might tackle needed changes. And, so it's something that we've been working on, and if this bill was to be passed, we would make every effort to comply with that September 30th deadline of this year. And I'll just close quickly with just a point of clarification on, there's been some information provided by other testimony about the quantity of food waste in the waste that is landfilled. The number from the EPA is 24%, and that it's important to note that that number is 24% of municipal solid waste, or also known as MSW. I note this because in New Hampshire, MSW is not the only thing that is landfilled. There's also construction and demolition debris, there's asbestos waste, there's contaminated soils, there's sludge. So MSW only accounts for about 60% of what goes into landfills or disposal facilities in New Hampshire. And so therefore, if we take the number quoted by the EPA at 24% of the MSW fraction, that means that probably somewhere around 15% of what goes into New Hampshire landfills is food waste. I'm not saying that that's insignificant. That's certainly a very significant quantity. I just wanted to clarify for the committee's sake that, you know, when we say 24% of food waste, it's not accurate in terms of what is actually landfilled in the state as a whole. So it's probably about 15% of that whole pie. And with that, I'll close. I'm happy to take any questions that you might have.
Questions from the committee?
Great. Thank you.
Very much.
Okay, Senator, that was the last person I had signed up to speak. So if anybody else would like to speak on the bill, they could raise their hand now. And I'm not seeing anyone, Senator.
All right. Well, thank you very much. And we'll close the hearing on this bill, HB 413. And I guess we probably have time to get into the next one then, right?
We're on track.
All right. Let's open up the hearing for HB 437 and hear from the prime sponsor, please.
So the prime sponsor is Representative Comtois. I don't see the representative here. I do know that Representative Howard Pearl and Representative Peter Bixby signed up. I'm not sure if either of them wanted to raise their hand and offer to introduce the bill, and Representative Howard has raised his hand.
Representative Howard, how are you?
Hello again, Senators. For the record, my name is Representative Howard Pearl. I am the chair of E&A. I will be happy to introduce House Bill 437. I don't have a prepared speech, so I'm going to wing it here. I'll read you the quick calendar blurb that we had from, committee report that we had from House E&A. As amended, this bill will create a study committee that will help with New Hampshire's food security. The study committee will delve into why farmers need to book appointments 1 year in advance for butchering services with the New Hampshire USDA facilities. Additionally, the committee will look into the shortage of workers going into the slaughter industry and the need for educational opportunities for training. The lack of availability in slaughter facilities hinders new farmers who may want to start raising animals. So our committee heard a lot of testimony on this and why it's important to look into this issue. I can tell you, as we've all seen, especially with the pandemic here over the last year, but that there's been a large, long trend now for more than 10 years, actually, of people going back into raising their own food, albeit, maybe animals, it may be produce, and the need for slaughtering services are becoming more and more clear that the facilities we have, the USDA run facilities can't keep up with the demand that's coming from the general public. So the committee felt that this was a good bill and a good chance to take a look at what would be, helpful in fixing this lack of slaughtering facilities in New Hampshire. We do have a state-run slaughter program on the books currently. But it's never been funded, and there's some concerns from the commissioner that he raised about perhaps funding that, and Commissioner Jasper from Department of Ag, and what some of the issues would be. So we thought it would really be a good idea to do this study and help us get some better information so we could perhaps address this problem that is definitely getting larger instead of smaller. So with that, I will wrap up and take any questions if you have any.
No questions from me. Questions from the committee. Senator Waters.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to note, Mr. Chairman, and thanks for bringing this forward, that this is a really important issue. We've gone around and around the shortage and how it's affecting our farmers and others who want to have locally butchered meat. And, we even looked into a little bit of whether or not we could change regulations to let people who are certified or licensed to do slaughter in other states could come in here, but we were just told, well, they're busy. So I'm really glad you're bringing this forward, and I just wanted to thank you for that.
All right. Thank you very much for your testimony. Any other questions? Seeing none. Thank you, Representative. Anybody else?
We have Representative Bixby.
Representative, welcome again.
Hello again. For the record, Representative Peter Bixby, Stratford District 17 from Dover. And I was involved in, I believe it was 2015 and 2016 in a study committee and a bill to revise the entire chapter 427, which is where our state inspection, meat inspection and slaughter regulations exist. And when we came to the idea of a state inspection program, we decided we would leave it on the books because there were significant problems with it, but it looked like it would never come into existence. Because there were significant impediments in terms of making that operational. One key thing to note is that the state inspection program would be essentially, we would need to pay a lot of money in order to get that up and running. With federal inspection, a federal inspector is actually supplied to the slaughter facility by the USDA at federal government cost, not at facility cost or state cost. So it's hard to see how a state program would be competitive. This bill was originally suggested as looking into just studying that meat inspection program, and I urged Representative Comtois to broaden it to studying the whole problem, and she was very happy to do that. Because there really is a big problem. You heard in the previous testimony that there's a wait time of a year, so you had to start scheduling your animals for slaughter before before you don't even know if they're going to be, how many are going to survive. You don't, and that's for mammals, for primarily beef cattle, also sheep and goats. There are only 4 facilities in New Hampshire that are USDA facilities handling mammals, and there are no USDA facilities for poultry in New Hampshire. So if you are looking to get USDA approved slaughter for your poultry, you need to go to Maine or to Vermont or to Rhode Island. There's that's another big gap. There is, for small farms, a exemption for doing up to 1,000 birds. And state law now mirrors that. That's one thing that we did in the bill in 2016. But and there's another. I'm not going to go into the weeds, but there's another stage of that where you could conceivably do up to 20,000. But if you're looking at trying to be a supplier for a grocery store chain, you're not going to be doing 1,000 birds or 20,000 birds. So basically, anybody who would be supplying our major grocery store chains cannot do that in New Hampshire. The grocery store chains supply entirely from out of state. It's just the very small farmers who sell at farmers markets who can really take advantage of that exemption. So there's a huge gap in our slaughter capacity, and we need to figure out a way that we can create incentives for people to get into that business. And one of the problems is that it's hard to get people who are trained for doing slaughter. There used to be a training program at UNH. There is no longer. I believe the closest training program is in New York State. So one possibility that the committee could look into is incentivizing training programs, and also potentially look into whether there is USDA grant money available for people who would want to get into this industry, because we really need to have the slaughtering and processing end of it in order to support the many people who are interested in expanding farming, animal farming in New Hampshire. So with that, I'll end and take any questions.
Thank you, Representative. Questions from the committee? Wow, you did a good job. Thank you. Anybody else?
So we have Robert Johnson next to speak, Senator.
Robert Johnson, like as in the guitar player? Just kidding. Robert Johnson's a great guitar player. Cliffs of Dover?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am not a great guitar player.
All right.
But for the record, I am representing the New Hampshire Farm Bureau Federation as the policy director and speaking to you in support of House Bill 437. Getting livestock processed has been an ongoing issue for farmers in New Hampshire for a number of years now. That was only exacerbated when the pandemic first hit and impacted capacity nationwide. With consumers looking to source meat locally and farmers trying to meet demand, it has reached the point where, as has been alluded to by previous speakers, that a slaughter appointment, you're a year out anyway if you're lucky. I was on a call recently, and this is not just an issue in New Hampshire, it's region wide. I was on a call recently where in Delaware, they're needing to make appointments prior to animals being born. The bill initially introduced looks solely at implementing the state inspection program that's on the books. Not convinced that this is an answer, we supported the study being expanded to take a comprehensive look at barriers and potential approaches to meat processing capacity. And one issue, again, mentioned earlier is the whole labor worker training issue. There's a facility in Goffstown that for some time now has told us they would hire as up to 6 new workers if they could find them today. We believe the study will help elevate the issue, bring people to the table, and the formal discussion will enhance communication and collaboration on the issue in general. And as Senator Waters mentioned to you earlier, we see this as a real important issue. With that, I'll thank you for your time and attention and be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Robert, for your testimony. Questions from the committee? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay, the last person I have signed up to speak is Josie Best.
Welcome, Josie. Josie?
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear that. I was unmuting. Yes, Josie Best in Unity, New Hampshire. I'd like to speak for basically the little and sell a few animals for meat and some for our family and our own use. I often use a local person who is just a local person, not inspected. That works beautifully, but he's only open part-time and he too cannot find anybody to help. Anybody trained to help. So I'm really speaking in support of this bill. We desperately need help here so that people can continue to grow their own food and for a few neighbors and a few customers. This has been a problem, as Rob said, for quite a long time, but it really is down to the nitty gritty here. When lambs are ready in 6 months, it's pretty difficult to figure out a year and a half ahead how to have a date. We really need help on this. We really need the study, and thank you for listening.
Yeah, this is only a study, huh?
Right, I know.
Okay, questions from the committee? Seeing none. Thank you very much, Josie. Is there anybody else?
I don't have anyone else signed up to speak, Senator, so if anybody else would like to speak on House Bill 437, they can raise their hand. And I'm not seeing anyone, Senator.
All right, seeing none, we'll close the hearing on 437. And is there a motion to get into exec?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, Senator Gray.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Coker.
Yes.
Ray Ride, yes. Okay, so let's just take up HB 437. Is there a motion?
Move on to pass.
So moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Senator Gray.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes.
Senator Avard, yes. Discussion? Anything else? So we just passed it, right?
I'll take it up.
Okay. All right. So moving right along. So I went so fast. What did I just do? It was 437, right? We motion to pass. All right. And Senator Gray,
I'm
would you
a
like
co-sponsor of that, Kevin. So yes, you did 437.
Yes, sir. We're going to have you take that out if that's okay, Senator Gray.
Yes.
All right. And I think I like 413, but do you want to wait just a little bit on it to see what happens with our Senate Bill 146?
Yeah, members of the committee, and obviously have to pass 413. I just thought that, given the uncertainty about just what's going to happen to our omnibus bills, and our companion to this is in 146. The hearing has not been assigned yet, but it has been assigned to Resources, Recreation and Development. So I think maybe I'll talk to Representative Ebel and Representative Renzullo and just ask them, what do they think? And would it make any sense to add the part 2 of 146 to this to make things easier for the House, or not? I don't know. I mean, if you'll give me a week to make that inquiry, I will. And then, Mr. Chairman, you may want to check with your side. As to, again, this question about what are we going to do, it applies to Senate Bill 91 as well.
No, I'm for that. I mean, I like the bill. It seems as though the omnibus bills have a bad history. Huh? They seem to get.
Well, I mean, it's hard for the House, and we're sending things over there that would usually go to 2 or 3 different committees. I mean, I look at 146, and there's stuff in there that probably would have gone to Fish and Game, and there's something in there that probably would have gone to ST&E, and then there's a couple of. Well, the zoonotics probably would have gone to Fish and Game, and then the solid waste probably would have gone to RR&D. Although this bill, 413, came through Environment and Agriculture. So, go figure. I just want to, what's going to help the House out?
Sure. I mean, I like the bill. I don't want to jeopardize.
It's just worth asking. That's all.
Sure. So we'll wait a week on it, but it seems like the disposition of the committee is to pass it unless there's a opposition to it, but I don't sense any, seeing how there were no questions. So we'll wait on 413 then, and we'll move on. Is there a motion to move out of exec?
So moved.
Second.
Senator Gray.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes.
Senator Everard, yes. And with that, we will move to adjourn. Is there a motion?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Senator Gray.
Yes.
Senator Waters.
Yes.
Senator Perkins Quokka.
Yes.
Senator Everard, yes. Thank you. Well done, everybody. Thank you. Good job, Griffin. Yep. And you too, Jen. Take care.